Hi everyone, it's Chenzo from Reality Art Pod. I'm here to talk about the Challenge USA Season 2, Episode 9, titled Enemy of the State. First of all, let me talk about this episode title. I guess the episode titles have been something to do with America or some sort of US history every single time, but that's just so arbitrary because this episode should have been titled Everybody Hates Chris. So let's dive in. They come back from the elimination where Tyler had just beat Monty. Tyler has a newfound confidence, and Alyssa says that Tyler is sunshine in human form. I find it really hard to believe that Alyssa and Tyler just met on this challenge. Cassidy points out that no Survivor players have gone home so far, and as a viewer, this screamed to me that a Survivor player was going home this episode. Tori and Sebastian are snuggling as they do. Fessy thinks that a showmance is not good for their games, which was a little hypocritical coming from him. And also, hookups are just part of the challenge. Why are we acting shocked about this at this point? Like, this is part of the show. This is a big reason why people go on the show. I do think that players that don't have hookups on the challenge are a little bit more focused on the game, but that's not to say that having a hookup means that you can't win the game. Michaela starts getting suspicious that Chris is turning on the survivors. This really got the ball rolling on the Everybody Hates Chris bandwagon. So Michaela and Chris have a conversation that doesn't seem like they're sitting down to clear the air, and the conversation is very tense and never really goes anywhere. It's very much just like, okay, we are against each other, I see you. We get to the challenge, and Sebastian is sporting some baby's breath behind his ear for good luck. The challenge is called Speed Jumps, and it's in 2 stages. Stage 1 is jumping on a trampoline to add numbers up over a wall, and the top 3 will compete in round 2. I personally would have liked everyone to have competed in the challenge of round 2. I could have done without the trampolines in the beginning and the math aspect of this. I honestly think the first stage of this challenge was figuring out who could or couldn't jump on a trampoline, because if you can't jump on a trampoline, you really shouldn't be on stage 2 of this. In round 1, they start jumping. Sebastian gets it right very quickly. Then Josh, Fessy, Tori, Chanel, and Michelle move on to stage 2. There's not too much to say about stage 1 of this. It was all very chaotic. Everyone was going in the same heat, so everyone's just running with their chalkboards, and TJ's giving them all yes or no's really quickly. My only commentary is I hated stage 1. Like I said, it didn't need to happen. We get to stage 2, and for me, this is where the challenge really begins. In stage 2, they have a semi-truck that's pulling a trampoline behind it. So they have to jump on the trampoline as the truck is in motion and collect flags as they go. The person with the most points at the end will win the challenge. Sebastian's up first, and he does well. Tori's up next, and she's jumping and collecting her flags, and she falls hard on her back, and they cut to commercial as she's seemingly dead on the truck. And this is the second time this week that CBS has done this with a cliffhanger commercial where someone is on the verge of death. Firstly being Felicia on Big Brother. And why did they do this with a cliffhanger? Like, do we really need someone to be on the verge of death to prevent us from changing the channel? This challenge was particularly a little bit too dangerous for my liking. Like, I like the challenge and I like that they can be a little bit dangerous, but call me old-fashioned, call me what you will. Tori could have had her back broken, her neck broken. She could have died or been paralyzed. And for what? This challenge wasn't particularly that entertaining anyways. The only thing that I guess made it a little bit intriguing was the fact that it was so dangerous. Especially for the Challenge USA, where a lot of these people aren't athletes like on the real challenge. But after the commercial, Tori gets right back up and keeps going, where a lot of people would have stopped. I personally would have been like, that's it, I'm done with this. After Tori, Michelle does humorously terribly and gets 2 flags. They all cheer when she gets a flag, like when Tiffany got 1 ball in. Chanel does even worse. Fessy makes the challenge look easy and then does a Rizzy backflip on the trampoline. Fessy and Tori end up winning the challenge, which ends up being no surprise. After the challenge, Chris FaceTimes with his partner and their baby in a segment that really makes him look like the winner of the show. Tori and Fessy go into deliberations, and they have conflicting interests because Tori made that deal last week with the Survivor girls and Fessy's from Big Brother. They end up settling on Cassidy because she's the only Survivor girl that Tori doesn't have a deal with, and Chris because he's a Survivor guy that Tori isn't hooking up with. When they reveal who's nominated, Cassidy is super understanding, but Chris is a drama queen about it and feels betrayed by Fessy. Then they end up going to the club. Tori and Sebastian end up deciding to actually go to the club this time. They probably should have stayed home because at the club, Sebastian decides to be super messy and he starts trying to rally votes to get Corey into the hopper, which rubs a lot of people the wrong way because Corey's a vet, but Corey is barely on the show. I mean, the fact that he's not edited into the show doesn't take away the fact that he's there doing stuff. So as a Corey Watch update, he's there, and apparently the things that he's doing are working for him because he ends up getting no votes in the end, not even Sebastian's. The next day, we get a shot of the most gorgeous kitty cat I've ever seen. We don't get a lot of animals on the challenge, so this is the rare animal sighting. More, everybody hates Chris because Michaela throws Chris under the bus to Cassidy, and now they all want him gone. So there's a lot of clips and a lot of scenes of everyone being fed up with Chris and exposing him all over the house. Sebastian tells Corey that Chris is targeting him. He doesn't believe it. Corey calls this a bunch of he said, she said, BS, and I agree. Corey goes to Chris and then he says and tattles on Sebastian. The vets then chastise Chris for strategizing, and he says it reminds him of being on Extinction Island. Chris gets even more personal content, and a picture flashes on the screen of Chris and his partner and their baby. So at this point, Chris is either going home or he's the winner of the show. Nobody is happier than Michaela to see Chris's game fall apart completely. So we get to the votes with TJ. The votes go like this. Sebastian has 6. Tyler has 5, Alyssa has 1, and Bananas has 1. When we get to the hopper, TJ tries to mislead us as he does, but it ends up that Sebastian, who had the most votes, ends up going into elimination against Chris. The elimination is called Trick Trick Boom, which is bouncing balls on panels to make trick shots into a final goalpost, which is fun. There's 2 rounds to this, so the first round they just have to bounce it 3 times, and the second round they have to bounce it 5 times. I would give the advantage in this to Chris because on Survivor, Sebastian wasn't the best at challenges like this, and being good at challenges like this was the reason why Chris ended up winning Survivor. So Chris, right off the bat, seems to know what he has to do with this. Sebastian is a little slow on the uptake of figuring it out. Chris gets his first ball in first, and then Sebastian gets it soon after. But this challenge is a lot of repetition and trial and error, so getting your first ball in first is such an advantage. And nobody is cheering for Chris because they all hate him, but he gets his second ball in and wins the elimination. So Sebastian ends up being eliminated. Tori and Sebastian hug goodbye. So we have to say goodbye to Sebastian, who didn't play the biggest role personally in the season, although his close proximity to Tori, who I think is one of the bigger female contenders to win, really got him onto the show a lot when it came to personal content of them hooking up. Coming off this from Survivor, I saw him as somebody who did really well in Survivor when it came to the team aspect, and he did very well when it came to the team aspect on the challenge. He really struggles when it comes to individual social game and strategizing, and that goes for both of his appearances on Survivor and the challenge. But to be fair, even if he had the best social game in the world, he's a first-time rookie and his time was numbered no matter how you slice it. So for a rookie run on the challenge, making it to the individual portion of this game, having some house drama and a memorable hookup, I feel like he's someone that the producers definitely would ask to be back on the show. I could even see him being asked to be on the main show and potentially winning one day. Overall for me, it was fine. It was all right. So thanks for tuning in this week. I'll be back to talk about the next episode, so don't forget to like and subscribe, and you'll get notified when I post that. I hope you have a great week this week. Bye.